Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and you've come to the Easy Beginner Basket Weave Headband. This headband is made primarily using front post and back post double crochet stitches. That is the ribbing and the actual basket weave stitches. And this, believe it or not, is not as difficult as it looks. I promise you I will take you step by step through this entire project, and you will really be surprised at how much easier this is than the way it actually looks. Okay, now for this project you're going to need some yarn. I actually used a sock weight yarn, which is a thinner yarn on this. I did not need more than 200 yards. Let me show you. This is the thin yarn that I use. It's often called a sock weight or a fingering weight. However, for this project, you can actually use any yarn that you have. If you have more of something like this, which is the Red Heart Super Saver, which is a worsted weight yarn. Let me show you real quickly how much thicker this is. Okay, here I'm comparing the two, and this is almost twice as thick. Now, should you want to use this type of yarn, that would be fine too. It's just that if you do use the worsted weight yarn, I would also recommend that you bump up to a larger size hook. Let's say a size I or 9 hook instead of using the G hook. Now, the other difference, if you are going to be using the worsted weight yarn, is you're probably not going to need the ribbing section here and here, because the width of this part would be just fine. So if you're using the thicker yarns, just stop once you complete this section and join it in the round. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get started. Okay, for this project, I'm going to be using a sock weight 100% merino yarn that I just happen to have on hand. Now, if you don't have sock weight merino yarn, you don't need to run out and buy any. If you have worsted weight or even DK weight yarn, that should work just fine. It's just that the dimensions of your headband are going to be different. It's going to be definitely larger, wider, and I'll have some tips on how to work with the different yarn sizes as we get to that point in the project. If you choose to use sock weight or fingering weight yarn like I am recommending a size G or 4.00 millimeters crochet hook. And I recommend that you always have a pair of scissors nearby, as well as a yarn needle for hiding any loose ends. Okay, we're going to start this project by chaining 20. First, we start with our slip knot, and then we work 20 chains. And I like to count by fives. It's just easier to not lose track of where I am in the chain. 11, 12, okay, so that should be 20 stitches. Row 1, we're going to start in the 4th chain from the hook. We are going to work double crochets across, working 1 in each chain. There are different ways of working in the foundation chain. I like to work in just one of the V. If you see the chain as a V there, I just like to work in one side of that. Some of you may like to work the back bump. It's whatever you prefer. However, if you use this side like I'm doing, I think it's going to be easier in the end, because we are actually going to slip stitch in the remaining part of the chain, so the chain will be completely concealed once we complete this project. So go ahead and work those double crochets all the way across that chain. At the end of this row, you should have 17 double crochets plus the turning chain. I'm not including the turning chain in that 17 count. Okay, so now we're ready to start row number 2. We're going to chain 2, turn. We are going to be working front post and back post double crochets. If you've never worked those before, have no fear. These are actually somewhat easier than working through the top loops. Believe it or not, it does produce a rather complex looking design, but I think even if you're a very true beginner, that you'll be able to do this. We're not going to work in the first or the end stitch here. We're going to wrap our hook like we're going to do a regular double crochet, and instead of inserting in through the top, we're going to come around, and we're going to give this stitch, this double crochet, a belt. We're going to bring the hook through and around. So let me show you that the hook is just wrapping around, it's not going through the stitch. And then we pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. We've just completed a double crochet, but a front post double crochet. That's what it's called when you give that wrapped around effect. Let's do that again. We're going to come in the side, and the hook goes all the way around. And also, as a tip, use your the nerve endings in your tall man and thumbkin to try to guide that hook as you go around. It's done a lot by feel. Okay, that's 2. We're going to do this a total of 4 times. Bring the hook around as you're giving it a belt, and complete that double crochet. Okay, that's called a front post double crochet, and we just worked 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to do 4 back post double crochets, very similar, except as the name suggests, you come in the back door. Come in from the back, and we're going to go in front of the stitch, pull up a loop, okay, and then we tie it's like tying the belt in the back. Come in through the back, all the way around that stitch, and we complete our double crochet. We do that 4 times. And once we get a couple of rows established, I think you'll be able to see better what we're doing. I know it looks a little confusing right now. Okay, so let me stop. So we've just done 4 back posts. See how the front posts are in the front and the 4 back posts are in the back. Now we're going to do that again. We're going to do 4 front posts, coming in the front, wrapping it around, and tying the belt in the front, or completing the double crochet is really what we're doing. What I like about this stitch too is it makes for a nice thick fabric, which is kind of what you need for a headband. Okay, now we're going to come in the back door for the last 4 stitches and do 4 back post double crochets. Remember the first time I did this stitch as a beginner, it just looked pretty spectacular to me. I thought, wow, I did that. And so I just want any beginners out there just to know that this may look hard, but it really isn't, and that'll just be a secret we can keep between us. Okay, now for the last stitch, we're going to work a half double crochet. Half double crochet, if you've never worked one of those before, you wrap the hook just like you did for a double crochet. We're going to stick it just in that big hole right there. Pull up a loop. Now this is where this is different from a double crochet. You wrap the hook and you just pull through all 3 loops on the hook like that. And this way it gives it the same height as these other stitches. Now we're going to chain 2 for row 3. We are going to do just like we did before, but it's easier to see. We see the rows, we see the stitches that are facing in the front. We're going to skip this first stitch, and we're going to do a front post double crochet, again going in the front door and wrapping it around, and then tying that double crochet in the front there. Front post double crochet, just the way the name describes. Okay, we do 4 of those. Now we're going to do 4 back post double crochets, coming in the back, and finish that double crochet on the back side. I'll just show you how the hook actually goes around the entire stitch. Okay, just like that. Now we go back to 4 front post double crochets. And then after that we do 4 back post double crochets, again coming in that back door and tying up that double crochet on the back side. And then half double crochet worked, going right in that big hole there. Okay, chain 2, turn. Now we've actually completed 3 rows. Now this is going to be the 4th row, and it's easy to count these rows by actually touching it with the 2 fingers here, because you can see where the thickness in the middle gets a little thinner. So 1, 2, 3, or you can always count on the ends if that's easier for you. And we're going to do the same thing for row 4. We're going to skip that first stitch and work front post double crochet in the first 4 stitches. Now the next 4 stitches, we're going to come in the back side. One. These are all double crochets that I'm working. Let's get some more yarn. Okay, then we do that again. 4 front post double crochet where we come in the front door, and we're just wrapping that hook around. I know I'm going a little on the fast side here. I'll try to slow down. But it is really this easy, because as your finger feels that hook go around the hook or around the post, you know you've got it in the right place. And now when my hook comes here, it's bumping up against this thumb and telling me that, yep, that's where you go around that stitch. And then half double crochet in that turning chain. Okay, now the next row is where things change up just a little bit, and this is where the basket weave is established. Now we have 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the first row obviously was just a row of double crochet, so we didn't have to do this for 4 rows, but from here on out we will, since this row is going to count as 1. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to reverse what we've been doing. So instead of doing 4 front post double crochets, we're going to change this to back post, and it goes just like this. Instead of doing the front post, we're going to do 4 back post double crochets over those front post double crochets, and this is where the weave effect is going to come in. So on this reverse row, which you work every 4 rows, we just work 4 back posts over those front posts. Now we have the back post here. We're going to work 4 front post stitches, 4 front post double crochets. And now we're going to do 4 back posts, and I'm doing it as, again, just the opposite of what you see. That was front post, so we're working 4 back posts. And what's really nice about this stitch is it is reversible. Doesn't matter which side it's facing, it gives the same effect. Now we're going to work 4 front post over these back post stitches. And in that turning chain, we are just going to work that half double crochet. So let's take a look at what we have here. Okay, as we work more rows, you'll see that effect, and you'll see that it is reversible. Okay, let's go on to the next row. Okay, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be row 6, although honestly the row numbers are not going to matter so much once you understand the pattern that is established. Okay, so now we're going to maintain the pattern that we established on this last row. We had back post double crochet, so we're going to do back post double crochet. We're going to do that for 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we have 4 front posts. You can see how it's protruding on the front. That means we're going to work 4 front posts. 1. Whoops, let's get the needle or hook around the entire stitch there. Okay, so now I just worked 4 front posts. Now we have 4 back posts. I can feel it with my fingers that it is a back post stitch as well as see it. So go ahead and work 4 back posts. Okay, now we have 4 more front posts. So go ahead and do those front posts. I don't know if you all can hear the airplane going over right now. I apologize. I don't have a perfectly soundproof recording studio, and we do happen to live near the end of a small, of an airport with a runway nearby. So occasionally we hear a lot of small aircrafts going over. So now the last thing we're going to do is work a half double crochet in that turning chain. Okay, so you can see the pattern being established. I'm going to do a couple more rows for you. We're going to chain 2, turn. Now we have, again, back post double crochet, so work 4 back post double crochet. We're going to do the same pattern for 4 rows, and then we switch again. So I will show you this pattern, and then I'll show you the switched row. Okay, so now we have 1, 2 rows. This is the 3rd row. Like this, we're going to do 4 front post double crochets, and then now these are back post, so we're going to do 4 back post double crochets, and honestly, once you get used to this stitch, you really don't require a whole lot of light even to do this. I can do this stitch in the dark, and I'm not super powered or anything to be able to do this. It's just, it's that easy once you get past the learning curve. I need to say that once you understand this and once you have the muscle memory in your hands with this stitch, I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's going to take a lot of the scariness out of it. Okay, to the end of the row, we're going to work a half double crochet in that turning chain. Let's chain 2. Let's count. We have 1, 2, 3 rows that are the same, so we need to do 1 more row. So we're going to chain 2, and we're going to skip this stitch like we've been doing and work 4 back post double crochets. We're just sticking with the same pattern of the last row. And then front post double crochet. Now we're going to do 4 more back post double crochet once I get some more yarn here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 more front post double crochets. And then a half double crochet. So let's go ahead and take a pause and look at what we have. So now we have a total of 8 rows completed. So now that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of that last pattern, it's time to reverse the row again. And this is how we do that. Chain 2, and then we, again, skipping that first stitch, which is that half double crochet, we're going to work front post double crochets where we had worked back post before. Okay. And then now we're going to work back post double crochets over these front post double crochets and do 4 of those. And then now we work 4 more front post double crochets over where we had worked a back post. And then now we do 4 back post double crochet. So on this is the change row where you just change to the opposite of what we've been doing. And again, you do that every 4 rows. Okay, and a half double crochet at the end of that row. Let's pause and take a look at what we have. This is the, actually it's really hard to tell which is the front side and which is the back side. This is with the front, the first round facing us, but if you turn it, see that? It looks the same, which is really kind of cool. This is one of the few crochet stitches that's truly reversible. Okay, so I want you to continue on with this pattern. Every 4 rows you're going to do the opposite or change the way you're working the front or the back post, and do that until you get it long enough to wrap around your head the way you would like it, or your child or whoever you're making this for. The average length is about 20 to 21 inches. I'm going to make mine 21 inches because my head does tend to be larger. And let me show you something else. When you're measuring it, measure it a little stretched, because if you're using acrylic or if you're using wool like I am, wool has a nice bounce back to it. Wool is really wonderful in that it will generally return to its original shape, so it gives it a lot of stretchability. It won't stretch out. Now, if I recommend against using cotton in this case, unless it's a cotton blended with something else, because cotton tends to stretch but not bounce back in the same way. Cotton has other amazing uses and wonderful for other projects, but not necessarily this one. So I'm recommending, you stay away from unstretchables. But anyway, when you measure it around your head, you want it to be slightly stretched so that when you actually wear this, that it doesn't just slide off of your head. You want it to be just a little bit tight so that it will stay on. So go ahead now and continue this pattern until you get it to the size, the length that you want. Okay, now that I've made my headband the length that I desire, this is approximately 21 inches long. I can't get the whole thing in the viewfinder at the same time. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold it in half. Make sure that there's no twist involved, that it's just 2 flat edges coming up against each other. And again, it doesn't matter, which side you end on, because this pattern is reversible. Also notice that as I put this together, I'm gonna slip stitch it together for you, but I want to show you that when I ended it, it still maintains, the pattern of alternating. Now, if the length that you've stopped at does not alternate, it really doesn't matter. It'll just look more like this, and this is going to be the part in the back where no one's going to see anyway, so it really isn't going to be that big of a deal. But if you wanted to, alternate it, just make sure that you end on an even number of repetition. Okay, so let's go ahead and stitch this together. I'm going to chain 1 as I do this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to slip stitch. I'm going to slip stitch starting with these stitches here. I'm going to start with the first double crochet. I'm going to actually skip that half double crochet, and I'm going to line that up with the first double crochet of the foundation chain, right like that. And I'm just going to go slip stitch like this, working it through both loops and the remainder of the next chain. Slip stitch. For those of you who've never worked a slip stitch before, it's just like that. You bring the loop through, there's no wrapping involved with the hook. So if you do that, if you line it up properly at the beginning with those first double crochets, where the first double crochets were begun, it should line up perfectly for you. Okay, I'm going to just work this with you all the way across, because I know some of you beginners out there appreciate a little more instruction. And hopefully you can see where that hook is going. Notice that when I put it through the foundation round. A good way to find out where to put the stitch is to find out where is that double crochet. I locate the double crochet right there and just put it right below there, and that catches both of those strands of that turning chain. Not the turning chain, the foundation chain rather. I know that can be difficult at first, and don't want to crochet these too tightly, but just try to maintain a relaxed crochet, a relaxed slip stitch if you can. The tendency for doing the slip stitches is for it to be extremely tight and pulled, and if you find that that's what you're doing, you may actually want to bump up to a larger size hook, but only if you find that you're extremely tight on this stitch. Okay, so there we go. And I'm actually going to do one more stitch here. I'm going to do one for the base of that turning chain because we did have that extra single crochet there. And that way it will make it nice and even. I'm going to chain one. Now, for those of you who used thicker yarn, who used, let's say, worsted weight, let's say a Red Heart Super Saver or Caron, Simply Soft or other, thicker yarn than this fingering weight that I'm using, may find that the width of this headband is just fine the way it is. And if that's the case for you, you can go ahead and fasten off, which means to go ahead and pull it real tight and cut the yarn, and we can hide the strings. But if you are using fingering weight yarn, please don't do that, because I have another step that we are going to work in order to make this headband wider and I think a little more, a little more fun to wear. So if that is you, if you're using the fingering weight yarn like me, I want you to go ahead and take this and flip it this way. Flip it right side out so that the seam, this seam here is on the inside and hidden. Now if you're working with the fingering weight or sock weight yarn like I am, I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to be adding ribbing around both sides of the headband. It's going to add width to that headband, and I think it's going to make it a little more fun to wear. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to work 3 single crochets for every 2 rows of double crochet. So I work 2 single crochets along that first row, and then I'm going to work 1 in the next. I'm going to work 2 single crochets in that next row end, and then 1 in the next. 2 and then 1. And notice something else. I'm holding this loose strand right up alongside where I'm working these double crochets so that I can actually hide it inside my work and not have to go back and hide it with the needle. I mean, I will have other strands to hide, but this is one I'm kind of hiding quickly. So just alternate going back and forth. 2 single crochets in one row end, and then 1 in the next. 2 in the next, and then 1. 2 and then 1, and this is going to give it even more elasticity. So go ahead and work that all the way around. After working these single crochets all the way around, we're going to join with a slip stitch. There you go. Slip stitch to that first single crochet of the round. We're going to chain 2. Now we're going to work double crochets in each of those single crochets all the way around, starting in the same place where you joined the slip stitch just there. So go ahead and work double crochets all the way around in each of those single crochets. After working those double crochets all the way around, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round, like that, with the slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 2. There's no need to turn. We're just going to work with the front side facing. We're going to work what's called ribbing, and the way we do that is we're going to alternate front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So we'll start with a front post double crochet. Remember, we tie the double crochet in the front, And then we're going to come in the back side and do a back post double crochet. You can do a front post double crochet and then a back post double crochet. We're going to alternate that all the way around. So front post double crochet, back post double crochet, front post double crochet, back post. To go ahead and finish that all the way around. After that last back post double crochet, I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that first double crochet or front post double crochet of the round, chain 2, and this will be our last round with the ribbing. We're going to work front post double crochet again and back post. So the front post double crochets will be over the front post and the back post double crochets will be over the back post. So go ahead and work that all the way around, and as you do, you'll see this ribbing effect that will result, which I think is really kind of nice, and it is nice and elastic as well, so that will help, you know, with keeping the headband on your head. Okay, so go ahead and finish that all the way around. At the end of this third round, we're going to join with a slip stitch to that top of that first front post double crochet, and we're ready to fasten off, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a chain, pull it tight, and go ahead and clip a nice long strand. Make sure you have at least 4 to 5 or even 6 inches long. That just makes it much easier to hide using our yarn needle when the time. Okay, now we're ready to work the other side, and we're going to join with a slip knot. Let me show you a fun way to do a slip knot if that looks a little confusing. Let's go ahead and do a little slip knot like we did for our beginning foundation chain. Take the hook out. You can stick the hook in. Okay. And just pull that little loop through and then give it a chain. And just like we did on the other side, we're going to work 2 single crochets in that first row end and then 1 in the other. And just like before, I'm going to crochet on top of this strand so I don't have to worry with hiding it with a yarn needle later. 2 single crochets in the next row end and then 1, 2, and then 1. So go ahead and work that all the way around. 2 single crochets in the next row end and then 1 in the next. Just like we did on the other side, at the end of this round, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet of that round, chain 2, and we're going to work double crochets in each single crochet all the way around, working through both loops. At the end of this row, join with a slip stitch to that first double crochet of the round, chain 2, and just like on the other side, we're going to work front post double crochet and then a back post double crochet, and alternate that all the way around. Front post double crochet followed by a back post double crochet. After working that last back post double crochet, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first double crochet, which was a front post double crochet of the round, chain 2, and now we're starting our absolute last round of this. We're going to work a front post double crochet in that first stitch and then a back post double crochet in the next. Now remember, if you had a front post, make sure that you work a front post double crochet, and if that was a back post, make sure you're working a back post over that just to maintain the pattern for the ribbing. So go ahead and work that all the way around. At the end of this round, we join with a slip stitch once more to that first double crochet. And go ahead and fasten off with the chain, give it a tight pull. Go ahead and clip a nice long strand there and pull it on through and maybe make it a little tighter. Okay, we are almost done. I really like this wide width, being able to keep my ears really warm in the wintertime. And let me go ahead and show you one more thing. And this is how to hide these loose strands at the end. It's a very easy way to do it. Go ahead and thread our yarn needle. And what we're going to do with this is we're just going to run it down into the stitches and try to hide it as best we can. And I like to do this with the back side facing. But honestly, with this yarn that I'm using, it's not going to matter too much because of all the different colors that are constantly changing anyway. And I'm just gonna run it underneath this a little bit here. And I'm going to actually run it up some more strands here. I think that's going to do it for me. I'm going to go ahead and clip this strand very carefully, close but not too close, because we certainly don't want to cut our stitches and mess up our project. And let me see, I think I have one more to do. I'll go ahead and do that one too while I'm here. And I'm going to do it the same way. I'm just going to run it down into these stitches. Now there's not a particular rule or anything. That the goal is to just get this strand so that it's not showing on the front side. If you're using a yarn that's one constant color or one solid color, it's even easier because the colors aren't contrasting with anything and won't show. But do make sure you run it through on the back side of your work. And I'm going to go up a few strands here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just clip that very carefully again. Give it a tug. There we go. Now we are done. And this is our seam, as you remember, and that's the wrong side. I'm going to put that on the inside, and you can always put that to the back when you're wearing this nice headband. Well, this ends that tutorial for the basket weave headband. If you enjoyed this project, please click that little subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the new offerings that I have coming your way. God bless. Bye-bye.